Hi everyone, I'm Maria McLachlan. I said in my last video that I hope to post a review of Matt Walsh's documentary this week, but I've got so much on at the moment that I've decided to split it into two shorter videos, two parts. And in this video, I want to talk about one or two issues raised around Matt Walsh and the documentary rather than say much about what happens in the documentary itself. I'll save that for part two and post that after the weekend. Right. First, I want to say that the only thing I knew about Matt Walsh before watching the trailer was that he is an American conservative who wrote a kid's book about a child identifying as a walrus. I didn't even look at that story very closely because although I applaud attempts to push back against the the grooming, I like to use that word, the grooming of children into gender ideology, it didn't sound all that interesting. But I knew nothing else about Matt Walsh at all. After watching the trailer and before seeing the full film, I watched a few minutes of a video made about the launch entitled, just bring it up, "The Left Tries to Sabotage What Is a Woman" premiere but fail miserably, in which he tells us that the Daily Wire came under a sustained and seemingly quite sophisticated cyber attack during the premiere of the film. Oh, well done, gender loonies. Thanks for giving him and all your enemies, including me, even more ammunition against you. This is so typical, such unsurprising behaviour from a cult desperate to prevent others from hearing what those who won't submit have to say. And how ironic that a large proportion of Matt Walsh's documentary is platforming genderists, educated professionals who are promoting this iniquitous ideology. He gives them a voice, and it was horrific to hear what came out of their nasty gobs. Anyway, at the start of the video about the premiere, Walsh says, "We knew going in that we were wading into treacherous waters. Gender ideology lies deep down at the core of our society's dominant religion, which is leftism." Hello, I've been to America several times, different places. I love it there. I love the people. In general, I find them warm, charming, friendly, and they make me look quite thin. And whereas I've certainly noticed more religion and religiosity in people in some places, not all, than I am used to here, I can honestly say that I have never seen any sign anywhere that the dominant religion is leftism. And that remark makes Matt Walsh sound like a bit of a crank to me. Here in the UK, almost everyone I know or have heard of who is speaking out against this crap outside of Parliament and the House of Lords is or was from the left, with a few admirable exceptions. In fact, prior to the current regime under Boris Johnson, we had a succession of powerful right-wing Tory ministers committed to bringing in gender self-ID. There is nothing left-wing, socialist or progressive about gender ideology because it depends on regressive ideas about gender, which are in turn a means of keeping people in their prescribed roles. It's not a left-right issue. It's misogyny, wearing a different mask. It's homophobic conversion therapy, and it enables child abuse. So nobody on any point of the political spectrum should be supporting it, and decent, humane people from across the political spectrum should, in spite of whatever other differences they may have, be united in opposition against it. That is how we will defeat it, not by trying to weaponize it against each other. And let me make it clear for the umpteenth time. I am not talking about individual trans identifying people here. Some of them are on the right side of history, like Scott Nugent, who appears in Matt's film. Some of them, like the groomers Jamie Dodger and Samantha Lux, and who else is there? Oh, summer look, are not. The fact that a lot of people who support it also support, at least in theory, all the basic socialist policies that I support myself, like a publicly funded health service, good quality publicly funded education for all, good quality social housing for those who need it, as well as socially progressive policies designed to eliminate discrimination in all its forms. None of that makes the notion that gender identity, which is subjective and unmeasurable, more important than sex, which is empirical fact, a left-wing policy. The fact that many of those who oppose gender ideology also oppose immigration or measures designed to improve equality doesn't make it a right-wing policy. I wish we could just stop this right-wing, left-wing contest and focus on what is actually happening, and where there is harm, work to eliminate it. I, for one, would not want to look a young person, a future Keira Bell or Sinead Watson, to name but two detransitioned young women whose female bodies and voices have changed irreversibly. I wouldn't want to have to look anyone like that in the eye and say the reason I did nothing or not enough was because I was afraid of being called right-wing. The only reason cultists say stuff like that is because they have no rational and coherent argument against the gender-critical position. Okay, one of the most frequent criticisms made of the documentary that I've seen is that no feminist was interviewed for it, and by that I'm sure they mean real feminists, the ones who oppose genderism and aren't selling other women down the river. Matt Walsh claims that he did invite feminists to speak on it and they turned him down. Certainly the documentary would have been enriched, in my opinion, by having one or more feminists who are bravely standing up to the ideologues in the US. I would have loved to have seen Deborah Cooper, or, Kara Dansky seems an obvious choice, but she has said publicly that she was not asked. And in fact, when she published her book last year, which I am enjoying very much at the moment, it's called The Abolition of Sex, approaches by the book's publicist to the Daily Wire, and Kara's offers of interviews were ignored. That's a shame, not least because people who are terrified of what is happening in schools and other institutions that are captured, but who are not natural conservatives and supporters of the Republican Party, need to know that they are not alone in order to empower them to speak up. This accusation that we are in bed with the right, when we come at this crap, this gender identity nonsense, from the opposite direction, is so silly. One of the early videos I made in my Awful Arguments by Transactivists series was called TERFs Are Right Wing. I'll show a clip now. The right-wing view promoted by those NF flyers is that gender roles should be accepted and those who fulfill them applauded. Men should be masculine, women should be feminine. The gender-critical view is that gender roles should be challenged, gender non-conformity accepted and embraced. There's nothing wrong with being a feminine man or a masculine woman. And by the way, those of you who accuse us lefties of being in bed with the right, think about the people you are in bed with. If it's true that feminists turned down this opportunity, it would be interesting to know why. Is it because they didn't trust Matt Walsh and his team and how the film would be edited? Is it because they didn't want to be tainted by cooperating with someone of his views, of his politics, when they already get enough hate without bringing more on themselves, as agreeing to participate would undoubtedly do? Is it because the only platform that would be legally airing the film was expected to be, anyway, the Daily Wire? So it probably wasn't going to reach a diverse audience. It's kind of like preaching to the converted. I can understand all those concerns, and it actually hasn't done us any harm not to be in it. I just think that the documentary is poorer for not including someone from a genuinely feminist perspective. It is clear from the outset that Walsh's agenda is the reinforcement of very traditional conservative values and ideas about gender and families, etc., as well as to portray those he calls the left as harmful. It's fair to say that Matt Walsh is not a supporter of feminism and feminists. Okay, the film starts with a birthday party in his home. Apparently he has twins, a girl and a boy. Whether this was their real party, we can't know, but it did look kind of staged to me, with all the boys in blue and all the girls in pink and being all girly. And according to Matt, give his son a BD gun and that's all the emotional support he needs. I do hope he was joking, because otherwise it makes Matt sound quite nuts and makes his family sound it's verging on the dysfunctional. And okay, it may only be an air gun, or so I presume, but this celebration of masculinity in that particular form just a few days after yet another mass shooting at an American school, well, I'd say the timing was a bit off. So the introduction to the documentary ends with Matt saying anyone who thinks there is no difference between male and female is an idiot. Now, I don't disagree with that, but what was his point in saying it, and particularly in expressing it in that way? Because to me, it seems like you're saying that boys have to be like that and girls have to be like this, and any boy who would rather be wearing a tiara and cooing over a tea set rather than salivating over an air gun, and vice versa, are in danger of being made to feel that there is something wrong with them and making them vulnerable to gender ideology. We need to be challenging those stereotypes, Matt, not reinforcing them. Let people be who they are and don't give them reason to want to be what they are not and what they can never be, the other sex. Okay, that's me done for now. What I'm going to do next is focus on some of the people Matt Walsh interviewed for the film, but for that you'll have to wait until part 2. Thanks for watching. Bye.